What's up, guys? Merry Christmas, everyone. With NBA off today and NHL off today for the holidays, and the college basketball slate only being those 4 games that are in that Diamond Head Classic tournament in Hawaii, and I don't have anything on those games. I won't have any additional plays besides the 2 NFL plays that I have today that are in my NFL video, although maybe I'll rehash those quickly and talk about the NFL slate maybe briefly and what I see in the market beyond like what I mentioned in my video the other day, I guess, because it's pretty much just all NFL today. It's an NFL Sunday for Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, everyone. And my Christmas gifts yesterday were horrific. I went 2-5 yesterday. And yeah, the NBA plays, I mean, those didn't get there, even though it looked like those kind of had chances to get there. I think those were bad. James Madison in the bowl, I thought they were the motivated team. They didn't get there, even though I guess Larry or for Air Force, their quarterback, I guess, actually came back for that game. But even so, that being said, the line had dropped from like JMU -4.5 or something when it opened all the way to the 1. And then it actually went through to like Air Force being a 1-point favorite or something when the game went off, maybe even 2. So I didn't get the best or the worst number on that, but I still felt that like even if their quarterback was coming back, that they would have needed time to like work him back into the system and whatever. And you don't just like gel like immediately with a guy when he's been out for that long, I don't think. And I didn't expect the motivation to be there, but I got that one wrong. So I'm gonna need to get some more of these bowls right in the coming weeks. I'll probably only be on like a couple more of them. The bowls are just awful. The whole situation is terrible. But the worst things that happened yesterday, I had 2 of my worst beats of the year, both on the same day yesterday. So thanks a lot for that. Butler absolutely should have covered in their basketball game against who were they up against? I don't even remember. Providence. Butler was winning the game outright. I had them as a 6-point underdog, and I think the line might have gone off at 4.5 or 5, something in that range. They were winning outright with 9 seconds left in regulation. The game went into overtime, so I think it must have been a foul situation. And I don't know if Providence like missed 1 of 2 or something. So it might have been a situation where Providence could have, I guess, just made another free throw, and then they would have won the game, I guess, by 1 in regulation, and I still would have covered, even though I would have lost the money line play. The game went into overtime, and Butler completely imploded in overtime. It didn't even cover the 6, and they lost by 10. Just absolutely brutal. It reminded me of this game where I was on the University of Minnesota way back in the day, and you guys might be able to find this game somewhere back in the annals of history. I think it was probably somewhere around the early 2010s. I want to say it was a game where Minnesota was playing, I believe, at Michigan State, and I had Minnesota as an 11-point underdog. Michigan State was in some bad spot, and Minnesota was winning much of the game outright. And then it wound up going into overtime. They lost the lead. It went into overtime, and they didn't even cover the 11. And they lost by 12 in overtime. You guys can go find that game. It's out there somewhere. I was on Minnesota plus 11 in that one. One of the worst beats that I've ever had. And this one reminded me of that. It was that bad. And the hockey game yesterday might have even been worse. So I won on Xavier really easily, at least. So, yeah, that was in there. Yeah, Xavier. Hell yeah. The hockey game, that game was over. Nashville was up 2-0 with like, I don't know, 10 minutes left in the game. So I just kind of stopped paying attention to it. I'm like, all right, Nashville's going to cash. That's good. And then what happened? Well, I guess they were still up 2-1 with 15 seconds left in the game, and they gave up 2 goals in the final 15 seconds to lose in regulation. I don't know how that even happens. I have no clue. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that, at least not with a game that I've been on. 2 horrific beats. Just, it makes me so mad, which is part of the reason why I was like, I'm going to do a video. I got to rant about this. Those 2 beats were unbelievably bad. I should have been 4-3 yesterday, and instead I was 2-5. It should have been a winning day, and it was a losing day because of Butler and the Nashville Predators both taking absolutely horrendous beats. I had those games right. The other games that I lost, yeah, I did not have them right, but those 2 I absolutely did. And then the NFL game, at least I got that one right. I'm 3-0 in my pick'em pools to start the week because I did wind up on the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday. Just looking at the market, I just decided that the situational aspects of it I thought were a little bit better in the market read was on Pittsburgh, so that's the way I wound up going. That was a tough one to read, but that one hit in my pools, and then I won on my NFL bet that I gave out on the show, obviously, with the Chargers, and it would have been real nice if they hit on the money line, because I put 3% of that on the money line. I think that was so close to hitting on the money line as a huge underdog. It would have been awesome, but the Chargers did at least cover, and it was a wire-to-wire cover, I'm pretty sure, in that one. So at least there was that. Chargers stepping up, playing a really good game for their new coach, like I said would happen. In the NFL today, you guys can go back and watch my NFL video. I have my plays in these games today. I don't have any on the Monday night slate tomorrow, but the 2 plays I have today, I wound up taking the Tennessee Titans plus 3.5. The 3.5s, I think, are probably still out there. I had mentioned on my video that they were at 2.5 at the time, and I said you can probably wait on this and probably get the 3 once like all the injury information comes out and whatever, because it seemed highly likely that it was going to be Geno Smith coming back for Seattle. I believe that is the case. And for the Titans, Will Levis is not going to be playing at first, and I believe they're going with Ryan Tannehill starting that game. So once everything kind of just settled, the dust settled, I grabbed a 3.5 on the Titans because I do like the side. So I was just like, I got to just sit around and see what we can get for a number here, because between 2 and 2.5, it doesn't really matter. But if you can get a 3 or a 3.5, that's key. So get the best number that you can there. The market read looks okay on that one to me. Seahawks Titans. Seahawks have 58% of the tickets now, 52% of the cash. So they look like the public road favorite. With the cash discrepancy on the Tennessee Titans. And as I mentioned in my video the other day why I'm on this game, Seattle's on a shortened week. They're coming off a huge, dramatic win on Monday night over the Eagles, the Battle of the Birds. That was a huge win for the Seahawks. And yeah, they are battling for a playoff spot, and the Titans don't have anything left to play for except pride. So you're relying on the Titans to still want to at least show up and play for pride and play for Ryan Tannehill. And Ryan Tannehill, I think he's going to be motivated. That's part of this handicap that I mentioned the other day. I think he's going to be in there, and his job as quarterback was taken away. They took it away from him and handed it to the new guy. So I think he's going to want to put in a good performance and be like, I can still do this. Like, why did you guys bench me for the other guy? Like, I can still play. I think that's going to be his mindset here. I think he's going to want to show up for this game and play well, show them that they should not have benched him yet. He still has something to do. He still has something to prove there, I think, hopefully. So the Titans, they're in like the reverse, or sorry, they're in the injured player theory spot where they lost Levis. So then it's a situation where the team might rally around the injured quarterback situation and still show up and play and be like, we're going to play for this guy, basically. If they still like Ryan Tannehill, they're going to want to play for him. I'm hoping that is going to be the case there, and they are getting points. So we need the Titans to have motivation to play there. That's the whole thing, because I do think the Seahawks are in a letdown spot, but even though the Seahawks are certainly motivated because they're trying to make the playoffs, they are laying points on the road, even though they have been a good road team. I think this is around the most points that they've been laying in a road game this year, I would have to imagine. I don't think they've been as big a road favorite maybe the entire year. I'm not even sure. Maybe if they played at Arizona, they would have been. Excuse me, I don't even know if they played at Arizona yet this year, but I guess they would have been a favorite like that in that situation. But other than that, I don't know. So Seahawks, Titans, yeah. Now it looks like the cash now looks like it just changed from 52% now to an even split 50%. So yeah, let's go. So you have the injured player theory on the Titans side, and it's a reverse injured player theory on the Seahawks side. The Seahawks just won with Drew Lock in there, so that's a situation where the team, not only are they in a letdown spot off of a huge win on a short week like that, but they have Geno Smith coming back. Their injured star comes back, and that's a situation where if the team just won without him, that's kind of like in the back of their minds, even if they are fighting for playoffs. It's, hey, we just won without this guy, so we're certainly going to win with this guy. So it's a situation where they might be like overconfident for multiple reasons there. So another reason I like the Tennessee Titans in this game. Yeah, all that. Like if this is a regular season game that didn't have playoff implications, I would really like it. Although early in the season, of course, you could argue kind of everything has playoff implications. But whatever the case may be, I think it's the Seahawks could be overconfident here. I think it might be an easier game than it will actually be. And that was what happened to Buffalo last night. Like Buffalo's still fighting to get into the playoffs, but you saw a motivated Chargers team last night. And Buffalo almost didn't win the game. So even though Buffalo is tooth and nail to make the playoffs. And with that win, Buffalo's actually in the 6th spot in the AFC now. In 2 weeks, they've gone from the 11 to the 6. That's how like clustered all this is. So that's crazy. And then my other play is on the Dallas Cowboys. That line is sitting at Dolphins -2, it looks like primarily, even though it looks like they opened a 1-point underdog, but that might have been because of the Tyreek Hill situation. I think once it was announced that he is coming back, I think it moved to the Dolphins -2. It might be an overreaction, really, to Tyreek Hill coming back because even though he's the best wide receiver in the league, debatably, I don't think he's worth 3 points, really, even if it's going through like the 0, so the numbers don't matter as much there. I think it's not that like the Dolphins aren't that much different of a team with or without him, really. I don't think like they played pretty well without him last week, even though it was a lot of mistakes on the part of the Jets offense, really. Like Miami putting up 30 points. Their offense wasn't as good as that score makes it look because the Jets were making so many mistakes and giving them a lot of short fields and stuff. And I don't think that's going to be the case with the Cowboys, which is part of this handicap. So I think it's maybe you get a little bit of the reverse injured player phenomenon with the Dolphins as well because Tyreek Hill's coming back and the line has moved a bit to the point where you're getting the Cowboys at plus money. I think the Cowboys are the better team out of the two teams, and this line is telling you that they are, but it's getting close to the point where it's telling you that the teams are like almost even, and I don't think so because the Dolphins, they've had 3 like step up games against good opponents this year, and they have not performed well in any of them. They lost to Buffalo, they lost to the Eagles, and they lost to what was the other one? The Chiefs, and all of those are pretty decisive losses on the part of the Dolphins. So this is another one of those step up games. The Cowboys have at least. Like they beat the Seahawks on that Thursday night game. Seahawks are an okay team, but they at least beat the Eagles, and they played well in the Eagles game that they lost as well. That wasn't like a totally decisive win for the Eagles. The Cowboys did have their chances there, so I think the Cowboys are the better team. They've looked better in those step-up games than the Dolphins have, even though both teams have been kind of notorious for like beating up on bad teams and bullying the bad teams. The Cowboys, I think, also have the better defense out of the two teams. The Dolphins' defense, I think, has issues. Like they have a lot of injuries on the defense, and I think they've been kind of masking that by playing really bad offenses like Washington and and the Jets. And the Titans' offense isn't good, and the Titans put together those late drives against them with Will Levis at the helm, and they made Will Levis look like a Pro Bowl quarterback basically at the end of that game. So the Dolphins defense is pretty questionable here. So I do like the Cowboys. The Cowboys are going to be in an angry mood coming off that bad loss. And I think the Cowboys need this game more, and they're getting points. So they're coming off that really ugly loss in Buffalo. They're going to want to redeem themselves. I think that's going to affect the line a little bit with recency bias. That was a bad spot, as I mentioned. They were going up there in the cold against a very desperate Buffalo team. It was a very bad situation. And the Cowboys were off the huge win over the Eagles to tie the division. And then the Eagles held serve and lost after the Cowboys lost. So they, I believe, stayed tied in the division. I don't even know who has the tiebreaker right now, but it might actually be Dallas. I don't even know. So they both lost last week. So the Cowboys definitely have the motivation. They can win this division. They want to do that. They're fighting to win the division. They want it. Dolphins have some padding, and it would be even better if Buffalo lost last night. The Dolphins would have even more padding, but they have some padding in the division. It's pretty unlikely that they're going to lose the division. So I think that kind of is in their mind as well. I think there's a little bit more motivation on the Cowboys side because they're really battling for their division, whereas the Dolphins can kind of afford to take their foot off the gas a little bit. Because they have that padding in the division. It's pretty likely they're going to win the division just as long as they win like probably 2 of the last 3 games that they have. And I think their last 2 games are I don't know who they have left on the schedule, but I think they have easier games. I think they probably have the Patriots at home, maybe, and then they have one other game. I don't even know. Something like that. I don't think they played the Patriots at home yet, so I think that's one of their remaining games. I think they pretty much know that's going to be a win. I don't know. Should I go down this whole slate real quick? Because I do have to make NFL picks. So, I will mention the Cowboys have 63% of the cash and 55% of the tickets. So it looks like they're maybe a little bit of a public road dog there, which I don't like, but they do have the cash discrepancy on them. So I do like that. I do like the situation for the Cowboys. So that's what I'm on. The strongest other leans, I mean, I kind of mentioned all of them in my other video. I do like the Falcons, but they're up to a 3-point favorite now. So you wanted to get in on that at less than the 3, I would say. They're up from 1.5 to 3. The Colts have 73% of tickets and 60% of the cash. No one's going to want Atlanta here, man. Atlanta just lost to Carolina and dropped behind Tampa and New Orleans in their division because both of those other teams won. Falcons are fighting for their division, man. They're fighting for a wild card, but they're definitely fighting for the division as well. They're in total desperation mode. They really need this game. So I think the Falcons are certainly going to show up here, and they're switching back from Desmond Ridder to Taylor Heineke at quarterback, which I don't think that really matters as far as like how good the team is. I think maybe the switch will be good, but I don't know. Excuse me. I don't think Ridder is that good, so I think the team is going to be motivated and they're going to show up regardless of which quarterback is in there. I like it either way. They're off a really embarrassing loss there to the Carolina Panthers. You don't lose to the Panthers and only score 7 points against them and let that stand. So I like the Falcons. Colts, even though they have extra time off, they blew out the Steelers and they're riding high on that, and they are fighting for their division and for a wild card as well. So they are also a team that's going to be motivated, but I just think Atlanta, they're the more desperate of the two teams right now. They need it more, even though both teams need it. So I like the Falcons there. I don't know. Should I go through the whole slate here, or do I even have enough time? Probably not. I probably don't have enough time to do it. Just mentioning the strongest leans that I had last week. I'm mentioning them again here. Browns are up from a 1-point dog to a 3-point favorite now and going through the 3. They were at 2.5 last night when I talked about the slate here. They have 67% of the cash and 66% of tickets. So they're like a public road favorite here. But I do lean to the Browns. I would not want to lay 3 or certainly more than 3 there. I'd want to lay less than the 3 or maybe find like a money line on the Browns. I think the Texans, they're in a pretty bad spot, even though they need it. Both of these teams are fighting for playoff positioning as well, even though Cleveland is in a better spot as far as the playoff positioning is. They're sitting at whatever, like 9 wins, 9-5. So they're like better positioned in the wild card than the other teams are, but they can't win their divisions. So they do still need, I don't think, I don't know, maybe it's technically possible, but I think they know they're not going to overtake the Ravens. So they're fighting for a wild card. So they need to still make sure that they're in that position to do so. They're not that far ahead of most of the other wild card teams, and they're now behind Buffalo, I think. Are they? I'm not even sure. Maybe. Oh, no, they're a half game ahead of Buffalo. Yeah. So Buffalo vaulted up to the 6, and I think Cleveland might be in the 5 spot right now. They're in the top wild card spot right now. So they can't really afford to lose, really, but neither can the Texans. The Texans they're behind Cleveland, and they're fighting for a wild card. And I think they're 1 game behind Cleveland. They're fighting for a wild card and fighting for the division. So that's the one thing I think the Texans have more need here, and they're getting points, which is why I can't actually bet on it. But situationally, otherwise, I think the Browns would be the side here because the Browns are off that scare where they basically should have lost the game to the Chicago Bears. I think that's going to scare them into focus. Kind of, it's one of those types of spots where they didn't play well against the Bears. Maybe they were kind of just not totally focused on the Bears, who aren't a very good team, and they escaped and they got away with it. And I think they know that, and they know that they need to play a better game here. Houston, they had their first game without CJ Stroud last week, and I think he's going to be out for this game as well, as the line is telling you he's going to be out. That's why the line keeps moving up on the Browns. If he was coming back, you'd see the line crash back down and maybe even through the pick. I don't even know. I don't know how many points they think Stroud is worth between him and Case Keenum. But the Texans, I was on them last week in the injured player theory spot. They played a good game with Case Keenum in there. First game without CJ Stroud, they rallied, played a real motivated game. They won on the road at Tennessee. Big win. Now I think they are in that second game with the injured player situation, and that kind of tends to be like a step back for a team. So that's one thing, one reason why I lean against the Houston Texans in this one. It's going to be that second game for Case Keenum, and I think he might struggle, man, because they're facing the Cleveland Browns. This is going to be the best defense they've played all year, probably. It's either them or the Jets, and the Jets really held the Texans down with C.J. Stroud. They made C.J. Stroud look abysmal. It was like his worst game of his career, basically. Terrible game for C.J. Stroud against the Jets, and the Browns' defense is pretty much an elite defense, and they're as good as the Jets' defense, if not better. So that's what the Texans are running into here. They're running into a really good Browns defense. So, but when you have a team that is mostly defensive and not as offensive, it's tough to lay points on the road with a team like that, which is the case with the Browns. So really, if you want to lay it with the Browns, you want to get it in a at a price where it's basically like you're just playing them to like win the game outright pretty much and not have to cover like a big number. So that's kind of the way I look at that game. And then what else we got here? I kind of lean to the Vikings. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to talk about every one of these games, but like, yeah, the Lions. I mean, they looked like world beaters last week. They're another team. It's a road favorite, and it almost looks like a trap. It looks too easy to take the Lions. They got 66% of the tickets and only 54% of the cash, and they're sitting around 2.5 right now or 3 at the Vikings. Both teams played on Saturday. The Vikings have a little bit of extra time off because they played an earlier game. The Vikings did have kind of a like a close call situation there where they played a pretty big effort game. They were beating the Bengals the whole time and then wound up losing in the end. So that's not great for the Vikings coming off a game like that, but they're not going to be unfocused here because they're playing Detroit. I mean, Detroit's leading their division. It's a big game for the Vikings for sure. And the Vikings, I think they still they're not eliminated, so they're fighting to make the playoffs still, I think. So they're going to be motivated, whereas I think the Lions, they have more padding in their situation. There's like no way they're going to lose the division at this point. So I think they can afford to take their foot off the gas just a little bit, like mentally at least. And they're coming off a game where they looked way too good on that night game, that primetime game that everybody saw last Saturday where they just wrecked Denver, where a lot of people did not really expect that, although I was on Detroit in that one. I thought it was a good spot to play them, a bad spot for Denver there. Denver's not as good as people think they are. So that win for the Lions might look a little bit less good. The Lions aren't a great defensive team still, even though they can certainly score. So this looks like a tough spot for them. The Vikings, I think, are the team that's going to have more motivation here, more desperation out of the Vikings here. The Lions pretty much know they have the division wrapped up, I would say, even though they're fighting for playoff seeding. That is still the case. But yeah, the Vikings kind of need it more, and they're getting points at home. So that's the way I look at that one. I do like Minnesota in that one if I had to pick a side. Jaguars, Buccaneers. I kind of like the Buccaneers in that one. The Jaguars are going to be the public side there. People don't like what they've seen out of the Buccaneers, really, even though they won last week. Who did Tampa even beat last week? I don't even remember. I don't remember who they even beat. They did win, right? I think they did. I'm looking quickly here. Oh, yeah, they beat Green Bay. That's right. That was a situation where I thought Green Bay was in a good spot to like bounce back. And Green Bay's really just kind of falling apart right now. Tampa, yeah, they beat Green Bay. Pretty big win for them, but Tampa needs to continue to win because they're atop their division right now. They're actually a half game ahead of New Orleans right now because New Orleans lost on Thursday night. So Tampa's really in the thick of it, fighting for the division and for a wild card spot as well. So I think they need this game. Jacksonville is still winning their division in the AFC South, even though that division's really close. And I think they're like tied right now. Are they? I think they're in a 3-way tie, even though they have the tiebreakers. They have the tiebreaker with the Colts because they beat them twice. But I think the Jaguars, so both of these teams kind of need to win. But I think the Jaguars are the public team. It looks like at some point they opened at a 3-point favorite here, but they're sitting at a 1-point favorite right now. And Tampa was like a 2.5-point favorite at one point when Trevor Lawrence's situation was up in the air because he was actually in concussion protocol. The Jaguars have 58% of the tickets, but 57% of the cash. So cash discrepancy to me looks like it's on the Buccaneers. I think the Jaguars are kind of the public road favorite here. So it's another one of those situations where it's a line that's kind of close to pick the winner, and the public is likely going to be picking the Jaguars to win this game. It looks too easy. Let's just take the Jaguars to win this game outright. Everybody knows the Jaguars are the better team out of the two, but are they that much better? Probably not. And Trevor Lawrence, even though, he cleared concussion protocol, so he is playing in this game, which is why the line moved back to the Jaguars being the favorite. They would have been more of a favorite. I think if there weren't these questions around him. He doesn't look healthy, man. He got injured in that game a couple weeks prior to that, and I think he injured his shoulder, and he did not look good in that game against Baltimore. He was underthrowing receivers and just did not look like himself, really. So I think there are definitely question marks around Trevor Lawrence. I would not want to be on the Jaguars here at all. And like I said, I think the Buccaneers actually kind of need it a little bit more. They're in a situation now where they're an underdog at home, even though it's still kind of a pick the winner type of situation. They're really in a dogfight for that division and in desperation as far as the wild card is concerned, whereas the Jaguars maybe have a little bit more breathing room, even though there's such a cluster in the AFC. They do still need to win as well. So that's how I look at that one. And then, Patriots Broncos is the primetime game at night. The Broncos are now up from 6. It looks like it's gone through the 7 now, the key 7. 80% of the tickets on the Broncos and now 79% of the cash. So the Broncos, it looked like they had the cash discrepancy for a while. They look like they're the public team now. Excuse me. This game, I still kind of lean to the Broncos in this one. I mean, the Broncos they're still fighting for a playoff spot, so they still have reason to show up, even though they need to cover a pretty big line, probably the biggest favorite that they've been all year. So that's tough. I would not want to actually get involved in this game, but I think my lean, if I have to pick, would still kind of be towards the Broncos because they have something still to play for, and Patriots do not. Patriots are coming off a pretty tough fight against Kansas City where they played them pretty close, closer than a lot of people thought they would. They played a pretty decent game against a good team there in Kansas City. Now they have to go out on the road into a really tough place to play, into elevation against a Broncos team that looked really bad last week. In that bad looking loss to Detroit. Broncos had that extra day off because they were in that game as well, the Saturday night game. So all of that kind of puts me on the Broncos a little bit in the situation there. I'm more of a bounce back spot for them, kind of more of a hangover type of spot potentially for the Patriots, and the Broncos still needing it to get into the playoffs. So the Broncos are just laying so many points that I just can't really quite get involved in. And that's the way I look at these games, man. The Monday night games, I guess I can talk about when I do a video tomorrow, even though I'm going to have to talk about the NBA Christmas slate tomorrow. And I think NHL is off tomorrow, and I don't think there are any bowls tomorrow either. And so there won't be that many games. I think college basketball is off tomorrow as well, so there won't be that much to talk about. So I can probably break down all the Monday night games again. I did it in my video for the NFL for this week as well. So I just like talking about it, man. It's what I do. Have a good Christmas Eve, man. Happy Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas to everyone. And spend it with your family. Enjoy the holidays. Hopefully you enjoy some good food, some eggnog. I'm one of the people who is pro eggnog. I do like it, even though you can't really drink that much of the stuff because it's so sweet and it's so rich, but I like it. I like it with some nutmeg in there. I used to like to put the booze in it. I think it's really good with bourbon or rum, but I am beyond those days now. But nice spiced rum in there. Dark rum tends to be pretty good in that stuff. So yeah, enjoy it, man. Enjoy the holidays. Happy holidays. I will be back with a short Monday video as well on the day itself, most likely. Have fun tonight, man. Enjoy it. Peace out.